Today, I'm going to introduce you to my Blood Bowl team, which I'm playing in my third league that I've ever been in. Stick around.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
All right, so I'm in my third league. Haven't played a lot of Blood Bowl leagues before, but I'm back to my first love, dwarves. So I'm playing a dwarf team in this is going to be a 10-week league that we're in at Armada Games here in Temple Terrace, Florida, in the Tampa Bay area. We started with 1.1 million gold pieces to create our rosters, and my team started off with two dwarf blitzers, 2 dwarf troll slayers, 2 dwarf runners, and 5 linemen. So we've gotten to week 2. I didn't get to record week 1, so you'll see this week's game here. I did win my first match in week 1. Coming into week 2, I was able to upskill my runner to include block, because the runners are the only positionals on the dwarf team that don't come with block. Everyone else already has block. In this week's game, week 2, I play against Ryan, who's bringing his Imperial Nobility. Now, last season, I ended one of my last games against Nick's Imperial Nobility when I was playing Norse. So you can see how much difficulty I had with the Imperial Nobility and moving them around. A lot of what the Dwarf team does and what the Norse team does is use the Frenzy skill to move things out of the way, push them out of the way, and make a hole so that we can slowly move that ball up. This is League Week 2, has a total of 8,000 fans in attendance with nice weather expected. It's my Dwarf team going against Ryan's Nobility team. I'm coming off my first week opener where I got a win. I'm trying to get a winning streak going, but Ryan's Nobility team is looking to stop that progress using his team's stand firm and fend skills to prevent my dwarves from forward progress. So Ryan wins the coin toss, and he elects to have his Imperial Nobility team receive. I set up my dwarf team first and kick the ball to Ryan's Imperial Nobility team. The kickoff event is solid defense, but I don't move or reorganize any of my defensive setup. I'm happy with where I am. We get into turn 1. Ryan takes possession of the ball by catching the kickoff with his thrower, and he rushes him twice in order to get into a pass action range to the blitzer, who he brought downfield within 6 spaces of my end zone before ending his turn. In the bottom of the first, I use my runner and blitzer to mark his blitzer since he didn't bring any protection for the blitzer. Using my second runner, I blitz. I throw a 2-die block, punching the ball loose and breaking armor, resulting in a KO of Ryan's blitzer. The ball that proceeds to bounce off the pitch and is thrown back twice by the crowd, ultimately landing behind my players on the line of scrimmage. I finish the turn by moving a lineman adjacent to the ball, and then I bring a second lineman in who fails to pick up the ball, ending my turn. Top of the second, Ryan throws a couple of blocks, resulting in a stunned dwarf, and is able to bring a lineman adjacent to the ball, and follows that move by moving his blitzer onto the ball, and he picks it up. The Imperial Nobility blitzer successfully dodges away, but is only able to get 2 spaces away because of the movement after the pickup. So here we are, it's the bottom of the second. I'm able to stand up my blitzer and rush him to mark the ball carrier, and then using a blitz action, I bring in a lineman to throw a 2-die block, getting a pow and knocking the ball loose for the second time this game. I'm able to take possession of the ball with my runner and move him towards the center of the pitch. So things are looking in my favor. Since I kicked the ball, now I'm in possession of the ball. Between turns 3 and 4, I'm able to successfully form a cage and begin movement up the right side. Turn 5, Ryan attempted to get his players between my cage and his end zone using rushes, which ended his turn and caused the KO of his lineman. Bottom of the 5th, I begin to shake Ryan's players that are marking my cage, and I'm able to KO another lineman by blitzing him with a Troll Slayer, allowing my cage to move forward a couple more spaces. As we get to turn 6, Ryan uses his turn to again mark my cage with a few players. But in the bottom of the 6th, I'm able to knock down those players that made it to my cage, and I end up with a failed blitz by my Troll Slayer, who rolls an attacker down, and it results in his KO. As we get to turn 7, Ryan stands up his players and brings the players from the backfield to pile onto my cage. But in the bottom of the 7th, I'm able to knock down the player marking the ball carrier and then move the carrier across the center of the pitch and forward. He ends with only one teammate near him, and I use the remainder of my actions to throw blocks, knocking down those Nobility players in hopes of keeping them from reaching my now vulnerable ball carrier, who is outside of the cage, yet within 6 spaces of scoring. And before ending the turn, my lineman is able to casualty a Nobility player with a 1-die block, During turn 8, Ryan stands up his player, but he ends his turn early because of a failed dodge, allowing me to score quickly with runner number 11 in the bottom of the 8th, taking us to the second half. I'm leading 1-0. I'm receiving, so I need to go get my Troll Slayer woken up from the KO box. He is able to return to the pitch. Ryan is able to coax 3 of his KO'd players out of the 4 KO'd players back onto the pitch for the second half. We set up, he kicks the ball, and the kickoff event is Officious Ref, where I lose the event and end up having my dwarf lineman with the guard skill being stunned. As soon as the ball hits the ground deep in my zone, I prioritize 2 columns where my runner can run up those columns towards the line of scrimmage. I start throwing some blocks. I pick up the ball. My runner starts to slip his way into the cage, hoping to get towards the line of scrimmage. In the bottom of the first, Ryan uses his nobility players to flank my columns of dwarves, and then he proceeds to close the opening of my column, preventing me from moving forward through the column next turn. In turn 2, I call for the runner to move to the left side of the field, and I bring 3 players with him to form a partial cage. I'm only able to pick up 2 spaces of forward progress, and then I begin blocking and shifting my players towards the cage to try to prevent the nobility player from hitting my ball carrier. The bottom of the second, using rushes and blocks, Ryan's able to stun one of my Troll Slayers and puts 2 of his nobility players marking my cage. On the third turn, my blitzer at the front of the cage uses a blitz action and a reroll, but fails to move the nobility bodyguard off the cage because of that bodyguard stand firm skill. The dwarf blitzer then dodges out of the space and down the left side of the pitch. The ball carrier and the Troll Slayer come along and form a half cage on the left side of the pitch. The runner in the backfield attempts to dodge out in hopes of helping the cage, but fails, ending my turn. Bottom of the third, Ryan starts calling blocks and knocking down dwarves. He then calls for the blitz action against my blitzer at the front of the cage, leading to a casualty. I have to use my apothecary to heal my blitzer, putting him back on the reserves in the bench, but leaving my ball carrier marked by the nobility team, who just earned 2 star player points for the recent casualty. Ryan finishes the turn with a failed attack, leading to his attacker going down. Top of the fourth, I start with throwing some blocks, positioning players just behind the ball carrier. The runner carrying the ball then attempts to dodge backwards to join the newly created cage, failing the dodge, which included burning a reroll, and the ball bounces into the hands of my other runner, who ends up catching the ball at the end of my turn. Bottom of the fourth, Ryan then uses this turn to surround the new ball carrier and fails his blitz action that results in a both down. Both players have blocks, so no movement occurs. During the fifth, after standing up my players that are on the pitch, I call for the blitz action to my Troll Slayer, who promptly returns the favor to the nobility blitzer, crowd surfing him off the pitch. My runner with the ball attempts to hand the ball backwards to the blitzer, but my blitzer fails to catch the ball, causing the ball to bounce off the pitch and being thrown back by the crowd, landing right on the line of scrimmage in the center of the pitch, ending my turn. Bottom of the fifth, Ryan is able to surround the ball with a couple of players. In the sixth turn, I begin moving players around the ball as well in order to prevent the nobility team from easily scooping up the ball. My Troll Slayer takes the blitz action and pushes one of the nobility players off the space near the ball. My runner throws a block, causes a casualty, earning himself 2 star player points that I used later after the game for advancements. Bottom of the sixth, Ryan rushes his players into the scrum near the ball and blocks the Troll Slayer down onto the ball, causing the ball to bounce into the arms of his nobility player, who catches it. The ball carrier attempts to dodge out of the scrum and fails, going down and dropping the ball. Knowing my short-legged dwarves can't score in 2 turns, I focus on surrounding the ball and knocking down nobility players near the ball. The bottom of the seventh, Ryan stands his prone players up, makes an attempt to pick up the ball but fails because of the amount of dwarves marking the ball. The ball bounces into the arms of my dwarf runner, who again catches the ball. Here we are. It's the last turn, turn 8 of the second half. As my last turn of the game, I focus on moving my runner down the field to create a defensive setup to prevent the nobility player from taking possession of the ball. During the bottom of the 8th, Ryan calls for one last desperate action. He asks the blitzer to blitz the ball carrier and fails to knock him down, thus ending the game. So the result of the game is my dwarfs win and end up with a 2-0 record for the start of this 10-game league. I'm able to add block to another runner, and then next week I play against Nandy's Chaos Dwarves, which has me curious because I've never seen Chaos Dwarves on a table before. If you want more content on Blood Bowl, comment below. I'll be back with Week 3's results. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.